Look up for a moment. Somewhere near you right now, there is almost certainly a screen, a television, a phone, a monitor. Now answer me one simple question. Who invented it? You don't know. Almost nobody does. And here is the strange part. That is not an accident. That is the result of a deliberate, patient, 14-year effort by one of the most powerful companies in America to erase a single name from history. The name belonged to a farm boy. He dreamed up the idea for television at 14 years old, while plowing a potato field in Idaho. He built it with his own hands before he was 21, and by the time he died, he was so forgotten that when a man walked on the moon and half the planet watched it happen, on his invention, almost no one alive knew whose invention it was. His name was Philo Farnsworth. Tonight, the fire and I are going to give it back to him and show you exactly who took it and how. Hear that? That's my fire settling in, which means it's time. Pull up a chair and get comfortable. I'm Daniel Reed, and tonight's story is about the difference between inventing something and being allowed to own it. It's the story of a genius who did everything right, and a giant who had something he could never buy: patience, lawyers, and time. By the end, you'll know who really gave you the screen you're looking at, and you'll understand why being first is not the same as being remembered. It begins on a farm with no electricity at all. Philo Farnsworth was born in 1906 in a small log cabin in Utah with no power and no running water. When he was 11, the family moved to a ranch in Idaho, and the boy made a discovery that lit him up like nothing before. The new house had a small electrical generator. That machine became his whole world. He read every science magazine he could find. He fixed the generator when it broke. He rewired his mother's hand-cranked washing machine to run on an electric motor he built himself. This was a boy who looked at the invisible force of electricity and simply understood it, the way other children understand a game. And in his head, a giant question was forming. Sound could already fly through the air. Radio was brand new and magical. So why not pictures? Why couldn't you send a moving image through the air the same way? Every brilliant mind in the world was chasing that exact question. Giant companies had teams of engineers and fortunes to spend on it, and they were all stuck on the same wrong idea, trying to build television with spinning mechanical discs, whirling wheels of whirring parts. It would never, ever be fast enough. The answer would not come from a laboratory. It would come from a 14-year-old on a plow. It was the summer of 1921. 14-year-old Philo was plowing a potato field, driving the horses back and forth, cutting long, straight, parallel rows into the earth, row after row after row, each one perfectly beside the last. And he stopped, because he saw it. He looked at those rows of turned soil, and his mind made a leap that the greatest engineers on earth had completely missed. What if you could capture a picture the same way you plow a field? What if you took an image apart into lines, dozens of them, hundreds of them, scanning it one line at a time, so fast the human eye couldn't tell? Then send those lines through the air as electricity and paint them back onto glass, line by line, faster than blinking. A picture, plowed into light. No spinning discs, no moving parts at all, just a beam, scanning line by line, exactly like a boy plowing a field. He was 14. He had just solved, in a potato field, the problem that the biggest corporations in the world were pouring millions into. Now he only had one problem left. Nobody would believe that a farm boy had done it. He carried that secret for years. As a teenager, he sketched the whole system for his high school chemistry teacher, Justin Tolman, covering the blackboard with diagrams, a moment that, years later, would matter more than Philo could possibly imagine. But first he needed money, and a farm boy had none. By the time he was 21, he had scraped together a little investment, moved to San Francisco, and set up a tiny laboratory in a bare loft. His wife, Elma, he called her Pem, worked at his side. She was part of the team, not a spectator. And on the 7th of September 1927, Philo Farnsworth pointed his hand-built device at a single painted glass slide, and in the next room, on a small screen, a straight line appeared. Then he turned the slide 90 degrees, and on the screen, the line turned with it. It had worked. For the first time in human history, a moving electronic image had been transmitted through the air and caught on a screen. He was 21 years old. One of his backers asked the impatient question every investor asks, "When are we going to see some dollars in this thing?" So the next image Philo transmitted, as a kind of joke, was a dollar sign. He had built the future in a rented room, and he could not have known that the fight to keep it was about to begin. Because someone else wanted television, and that someone was a giant. His name was David Sarnoff, the ruthless, brilliant head of RCA, the Radio Corporation of America, the most powerful electronics company on Earth. Sarnoff understood something Philo did not yet grasp. Whoever owned television would own the future, and the fortune that came with it, and Sarnoff intended to own it completely. Let's be honest by this fire about how this worked, because it is the black heart of our story. Sarnoff did not invent television. His strategy was simpler: control every patent, pay no royalties to anyone, and let his wall of lawyers wear down any smaller man who stood in the way. He sent his own top scientists to tour Farnsworth's lab and take detailed notes. Then RCA claimed their man had invented it all first, and moved to crush Philo's patents in court. By the way, this whole channel is built on giving credit to the people history forgot. If you believe the right names deserve to be remembered, tap subscribe. That's the whole mission, right there. A 20-something inventor against the largest electronics corporation in America and its army of attorneys. It should have been over before it began, but RCA had forgotten one thing: a teacher and a blackboard. Years before, the case came down to a single question: who thought of it first? RCA insisted no 14-year-old could possibly have conceived electronic television. And then Philo's side found him. Justin Tolman, the old high school chemistry teacher. Tolman took the stand, and from memory, he redrew the sketch. The very same diagram his student Philo had drawn on the chalkboard as a 15-year-old. Years before RCA claimed to have invented anything at all, a school teacher had kept, in his own hand and his own memory, the proof that would decide everything. It showed, beyond doubt, that the idea had come from a boy on a farm. In 1935, after a long fight, the patent office ruled. Philo Farnsworth, not RCA, not David Sarnoff, was the true inventor of electronic television. A farm boy from Idaho had beaten the most powerful electronics company in the world in a court of law. And here is where you expect the happy ending. The farm boy wins. He gets rich. He becomes a household name, and his children grow up proud. That is not what happened. That is almost never what happened, because winning the patent was not the same as winning the war. And David Sarnoff had something Philo did not: far more time, far more money, and no intention of ever giving up. RCA did what giants do. They appealed, they delayed, they filed motion after motion, dragging the fight out year after grinding year. And every year, Philo's precious patents ticked closer to expiring. Eventually, RCA was forced to do something it had never done for anyone: pay Philo Farnsworth royalties for his invention. It was a historic victory on paper, but it came late, after years of crushing legal bills. And then the Second World War arrived, and the government halted all television production entirely. By the time the world was ready for TV again, Philo's key patents had expired. RCA could finally use them for free. The war broke him in other ways too: the stress, the endless fighting, the feeling of being slowly robbed of the thing he had given his life to. It pulled him into depression and drink. The bright, obsessed boy from the potato field was disappearing. And when RCA finally launched television to the American public, At the 1939 World's Fair, it was David Sarnoff who stood on the stage, presenting television to the world, as if it were RCA's gift to mankind. Philo Farnsworth's name was nowhere. He sat at home and watched the man who took his life's work take a bow for it. So was it all for nothing? It can feel that way, but stay with me, because the ending is not as dark as it looks. Philo Farnsworth lived to see the ultimate proof of what he had built. On the 20th of July, 1969, he sat in his living room with Pem and watched a man step onto the surface of the moon, beamed to 600 million people around the world on live television. He turned to his wife and said that this made it all worthwhile. His invention had carried the greatest moment of the century into every home on Earth. He held over 300 patents in his life. The image he first plowed into light became the most powerful communication tool humanity had ever known. And slowly, too slowly, the record has been corrected. Historians now name him plainly Philo Farnsworth, the father of electronic television. There is a statue of him in the United States Capitol. His name is coming back. The lesson the fire offers tonight is a hard one, but an honest one. Being first does not guarantee the credit. Genius alone does not protect you from power. But the truth is patient, more patient in the end than any corporation. They took his name for a lifetime. They could not keep it forever. Remember the potato field, the boy staring at those long, straight rows of turned earth? That is the image to hold on to tonight. Everything you have ever watched on a screen, every film, every match, every face you love on a video call, every bit of it is still built on lines, scanned one after another, exactly as a 14-year-old imagined while walking behind a horse. And that, my friend, is where his story reaches you. Philo Farnsworth had no money, no connections, no famous name, just an idea and the will to build it. The world gave him almost nothing, and powerful men took even that. And yet what he made outlived them all and reached every corner of the earth. You may feel small sometimes, learning word by word, with no one watching. But ideas do not care where they are born, in a laboratory, or a potato field, or a quiet room where someone is teaching themselves a new language, one sentence at a time. What you build in your own mind is yours. Power can delay the truth. It cannot cancel it. Plow your rows, do your work, and trust that what is real will outlast whatever tries to bury it. Before the fire burns down, one question tonight. Philo Farnsworth invented the future and was nearly erased from it. So tell me, should we remember the person who first has the idea, or the company that makes it real for everyone? One word in the comments, inventor or company, and tell me where in the world you're listening from. I read every single comment by this fire. If this story earned it, subscribe. You bring the chair, I bring the history. And next time, another genius the world tried to forget. A woman whose calculations sent rockets into space and men to the moon, working in a country that would not let her sit in the same room as her colleagues. Pull up a chair and find out. The fire's still warm, and there is always a chair for you. I'm Daniel Reed, and this is Fireside History.